Hello Model Layers and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to show you how to assemble the front and rear brakes. I hope you enjoy the video. So my Model A has been off the road for quite a few weeks because I am rebuilding most of the brake system. These were rebuilt not too long ago from the looks of it, but I'm replacing it with bondage brake shoes and cast iron drums from Randy Gross. So the first thing that you need to do is install the rollers on each of the brake shoes, and then your brake actuating levers. So they go on the top section, and you want to make sure that your brake actuating levers for each shoe is the same length, because if they're not the same length, then they won't apply the same amount of braking power. Okay, so you do that, and then you install the cotter pin. And with the brakes, I always try to make sure I'm installing the cotter pin facing out, because it's a lot easier to remove a cotter pin that you can see. So once you install all of the rollers and adjusting shafts on, you're going to apply a light coat of grease onto on whatever these are called, the adjusting shafts. And then you're going to place them in here. Now, I'm going to show you. There is a taper to it, and it goes out like this, like that. So the pointy end, the longer end goes towards this way. Now the first thing you do is install the shoes. You can see I have one shoe installed already, and you start with the short spring. So you're going to wrap the short spring around this little rivet and make sure the rollers are lined up with the adjusting wedge. And don't worry about the top part yet, because once you get the spring on, it's a lot easier to worry about that. So the spring's attached. Make sure this is in place, okay? And then you're just going to insert the operating wedge like that. So that's how you install the shoes for that. And then, as you can see, now the adjusting wedge does what it should do. Okay, the next step is the larger spring. Now the larger spring goes on top between here. Now that spring's going to be a little difficult. Okay, so I found that if you take one of the bottom springs off and then pull it in and push that in, it's a lot easier to get the top spring on. It's still not going to be easy, but now the bonded shoes I chose over the traditional woven or asbestos style because they provide a lot more friction, especially when they're with the cast iron drums, and they'll make for a lot better functioning brakes. Because mine's had the original rolled steel drums, and it was getting to the point where I couldn't stop if like there was a stop sign at the bottom of a hill. So that's when I knew it was time to invest in in new brakes. Not cheap. Okay, after much coaxing, both brake shoes are on. So now that those are on, we can install the drums. Now when you get these, they're not painted. So I used caliper paint and then gloss enamel. So put these on. They're going to be a little snug, so you may have to back off the brake adjuster. eventually. And then I'll show you how to make sure the wheel bearings are seated properly. Okay, so now we're going to put the inner bearing inside, and it goes with the tapered end facing in. That fits right in there. And then we need our washer, and it's keyed, so that goes in the slot right there. And then our castle nut. Okay, with our brakes backed off, now we're going to tighten our castle nut until you start to feel the drag. Yeah, that's a lot. Let me back off the brakes a little bit. Yeah, so you can see there's a lot of drag there. So we're going to back off this a little bit until it's a little bit freer spinning. So you can see so you want to make sure to spin it when you're doing this. And you're just going to tighten it until you start feel it drag, and just keep doing that. And then you'll feel it start to loosen up. That should be good. Yeah, so then you're going to put your cotter pin in. That's how you do the front brakes, and now I'm going to show you how to do the rear brakes. And then mine has a dust cap. They didn't come with dust caps, but since mine has one already, I'm just going to keep it on here. Not necessary, but there we go. Okay, so I ended up having to take the emergency brake carrier loose in order so I could get back here and try and get these shoes in. So I did find out that you do have to remove the emergency brake carrier plate in order to put the brake shoes in. It's nearly impossible, especially if you're using new springs. Because of how tense they are, you can't really lift it up over this. So I really don't want to have to do this, but let me just show you. So once you take that off, you can much easier get this spring in. Okay, so I reinstalled the brake carrier and the grease baffle. I did not film that because it was, well, we're not talking about that. But anyway, the next thing we have is the emergency brake band. Now, I had these cleaned up by Randy Gross as well. But to install these, there's this pin, and that goes on the toggle lever. You can see it's loose right now because it's not attached. Oops, yeah, you can see it's not attached. It's pulling out. What was that? I don't know. No, don't tell me that was a key. Anyway, so that goes in, and then the V part goes around this little section like that, and then you slide it in the middle of this like that. And then we need a cotter pin. So don't put the cotter pin in like set yet. Just leave it in there, and then you're going to install the rear brake, emergency brake springs. This seems to be working good, this method. Okay, that's done. Now we have the other spring, and I believe that goes in that slot. You can see because I scratched up the paint, so that's not on purpose, but it just happens that way. So I found that the screwdriver, if you put it up to where you need it to be and just flex the screwdriver, careful because the spring could break, so make sure that you're not in the way. But yeah, so just get it in there. Some way or another. There we go. There we go. We can do the cotter pin. So what I do is take the needle nose pliers and hold the head, and then take the regular pliers to, oops, it usually works, but when we're filming it seems like everything takes longer or doesn't work how it should. There we go. Now the next thing that you need to do is install your axle shim if you have one. So that just slides over. And then your key. Now I already installed the key, but there's a taper on the key. Oh my gosh, lovely. There's a taper on the key, and the taper goes towards the axle. So you would install it like this, if you can see that. So the taper goes up against that way, not like this, which is how this was installed when I took it apart. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to put on your brake drum. So this is a rear brake drum, and it still has the, I'll take that off in a minute. But you have your wheel bearing in there with the grease seal and then the retainer. And it's, sorry, it's keyed. So you have to put the key on the correct way. And it's going to take some, I don't know what I was saying. Yes. So you want to make sure that key is lined up. It's been many, many days, but I'm happy to say that the drum went on finally. And as I mentioned for the previous one, removing the brake rods really helped with that. So the wheel's back on. Now I just need to adjust everything. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below with any questions or any comments. And again, thank you for watching.